I recently got the chance to tour the factory of a dying American power tool brand, and I was shocked at some of the things I heard.
We're the only power tool manufacturer in the US.
Really?
It costs us $1,600 to make the planer attachment. We were selling it for $2,000. Not a great margin there.
Right.
There's 600,000 marks.
Wow.
In this country.
Yeah.
You know, in the 80s, they were doing $100 million a year in revenue. They had like 10 different factories around Dayton.
Wow.
Employed 1,600 people.
1,600 people?
Huge business.
Holy crap.
Then 2000 hit.
Yeah.
Everything went online and they did not.
Today, Shopsmith employs around 20 people in one location here in Dayton, Ohio. They were on the verge of total collapse, and then they were acquired by this guy, who apparently has big plans and invited me to come show me around. I agreed, but to be honest, I wasn't really sure why. I don't know much about Shopsmith. I certainly don't own one, or really even know anyone who owns one. Heck, I barely know what it is.
It's a table saw, a lathe, a drill press, a horizontal bore, a disc sander, a router, and a shaper. I think I got all of them there. I get lost halfway through.
Yeah. But I do love all things manufacturing, especially tools made here in America. Plus, it turns out I live 15 minutes from where they're located, so that helps too. What's going on, Nick?
Hey.
How you doing?
Welcome to Shopsmith.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, anytime.
So it looks like maybe a work in progress in here?
Yeah, this space used to be an education center. You can see by the sign up there. We're going to return it to that, where we have classes and how-tos. You can hear the construction happening right now.
Kind of feels like a museum of Shopsmith.
You know, these two machines over here are kind of the genesis of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Eventually, this space will be our classroom, where we'll have live, monthly sessions. We used to have this thing called sawdust sessions, where we actually sell them on DVDs still.
Really?
But yeah, so teach you how to either use the machine or teach your woodworking techniques. I want to bring that back where we do live sessions where we tape them.
YouTube is probably
exactly. Yeah, having a good channel where it shows you, either teaches you about the machine or teaches you woodworking. Yeah, so that's what I want this space. That's what this space used to be, is that. And so we're, it's a mess right now because we're trying to configure it.
It's always stuck out to me is how much hasn't changed across the generations. And I think that may be a testament to how well it was designed in the first place. But it seems like even the older, the Gen 1s, obviously there's probably huge electronics differences between the new ones with this sort of control panel versus the old analog, that kind of thing. But the bones of the machine seem very similar.
Yep.
Is that something that you see changing over time, or is that something that's always going to kind of be, this is what Shopsmith is?
Planned obsolescence has never been in Shopsmith's vernacular. The base of all of our machines for the last 40 years, the dimensions have not changed.
Wow.
So if you own an old machine or you buy one off Facebook and the motor dies, we can sell you a new motor with all the new technology, more horsepower, more electric efficiency, and it'll slide onto your old base.
Oh, wow.
So the good news is, I joke around with everyone, the good news about Shopsmith is it never breaks. The bad news about Shopsmith from a business perspective is it never breaks.
You sell one.
I sell one, and then hopefully, it dies in a tornado or something, so you have to buy another one. But all kidding aside, yeah, that's kind of the brilliance of it, because we know they're going to last forever. It's high quality, American made. This is kind of like how we used to make stuff. Everything's metal, it's heavy, it's durable. Any plastic part is plastic for a reason, usually for safety. Like this, the coupler here, it's designed to break at a certain tension, so if something gets stuck, it'll break and instantly kill power.
Yep.
Most people overlook those things, but yeah, so like if you've got an old machine, all the new stuff will fit on it. We've changed everything, like the tables are bigger, the rails are bigger, the fences are bigger, the motor's more powerful than the old motors, but they fit on the base the same way.
Interesting.
So, as they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I like it. Okay, you want to show me the factory?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's go. When you walk out on the factory floor, you're greeted by a familiar smell of old grease and metal chips. If you've been around manufacturing, factories, or machine shops, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's almost like I could smell the history of this place. So one thing I see, and correct me if I'm wrong, do I see a Shopsmith that makes the Shopsmith?
Let's go. Yeah. I got to go back here. Do you remember those two, the green and the gold motors that you said look like ancient? The machine right in front of those that was an actual mark.
Yep.
Was the old 10ER, was the original concept.
Okay.
That Hans Goldschmidt designed, 75 years ago.
Sure.
That's what this motor is. So these are, that's 5 10ER motors There's another one over there. So when the company was founded, the original owner bought 50 or had 50 of these made. 40 of them were used to build the factory.
Build the equipment.
And 10 of them, they made machines, gave to the sales reps to go sell. And that was the start. They still work.
They're still going.
Still here. This punches the holes in our the side of the belt sander.
Okay.
So yeah, this is the machine that punches these holes in the belt sander reel.
That is crazy.
So yeah, all metal and.
Yeah. Now, where do you get your castings from?
So we have a few suppliers. We don't do any metal casting here.
Right.
Yeah, but it's in Ohio. All in Ohio.
Wow.
Up in Piqua is our main caster.
That's something that's got to be unique for, especially a power tool brand, is to still have castings done here in the U.S.
We're the only power tool manufacturer in the U.S.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Every other power tool company has shipped everything overseas. They're all headquartered here.
Right.
Like DeWalt,
Right.
that's not made here.
Right.
You know.
Or for the ones that they say they made here, they might make like one socket set or something.
Right.
And say that they're a
yeah,
US tool
Grizzly
brand.
and Jet, most of those are made in the same factory overseas, but
Yeah.
mostly in China and
Taiwan.
other parts. And we do have a few of our components that come from there, so we can't say that we're 100% made in the USA. Our machine would cost $8,000 if we did
Especially
that.
electronics, motors,
Yes.
linear rail, all that kind of
It
stuff.
doesn't exist here. So part of what I saw as an opportunity was this reshoring of manufacturing is coming back. There's more and more. We're in the machine capital of the world.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of our own machining in-house. That is one thing I'm shifting out of house just because we don't need to do it anymore here. But that's a long-term thing.
Sure.
But yeah, so like as you go around the factory, you'll see a lot of either these or the newer versions, not the newest, but newer versions of our machines making machines.
That's pretty cool. It's like Terminator almost.
Terminator and the Matrix,
Yeah.
you know, they're saying machines making machines,
Yeah.
how perverse, you know, it's pretty cool.
As we continued walking around, I noticed something that immediately jumped out at me. The stark omission of any automation, like zero. I've had the opportunity to walk the factory floors of a lot of different companies spanning a ton of different industries. And nowadays, automation is kind of the norm. It felt like Shopsmith was almost frozen in time with all these manual processes. So all of the assembly happens here?
Yes.
Most of the machining happens here?
Yes.
The only things that are not done here would be like electronics manufacturing.
Right.
And of the individual kind of consumable components that go into the machines.
Correct.
But other than that, everything's done here?
Everything's done here.
Wow.
Yep, done here and 20,000 square feet. Well, eventually we'll have to get bigger digs as we start to increase volumes. But yeah, and I won't ever bring electronics here.
Yeah.
It's just not what we do well, right?
Yeah.
Even if we sold 10,000 marks a year, it still doesn't make sense. So we're really good at a few things, and we're focusing on those and trying to find partners who can help us with what we're not good at.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is where our jointer's made. You know, we get these huge cast parts coming in.
Yeah.
Very heavy.
Beefy.
Yeah, I mean, you can see weighs like probably 35 pounds.
Yeah.
The thing that I would say is we're not going to compete with someone that wants to be a master craftsman to sell a lot of product.
Yeah.
You know, it's a 4-inch jointer.
Yeah.
Should we make a 6-inch jointer? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be a major investment, and we don't have the capital for that right now. What's glaring as an opportunity here is there's a culture around here that says it's just how we've always done it. Right, and I think that's true with a lot of organizations our age.
Yep.
And it's an opportunity to ask questions like, I'm naive to all this.
Yeah,
so I'm asking, Brett, why do we do it that way? That doesn't make sense to me. Explain that.
Yeah.
And if you can't explain it to me, then like, we're going to change that because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
We were doing too many things. Like the first thing I did was I discontinued our planer. So we made a planer attachment. It cost us $1,600 to make the planer attachment.
Holy cow.
We were selling it for $2,000. Not a great margin there.
Right.
The 3 words I put into the business was simplify, reduce, and promote.
Yeah.
And so it's like, let's simplify all of our processes. Let's reduce the things that we sell and focus on the things we're good at. And then let's promote the hell out of it. So that's what we're doing.
This sounds a lot like the approach of Steve Jobs when he returned to Apple. He famously killed most of the products and hyper-focused on the MacBook computer. I also couldn't help but notice that Nick looks a lot like the blue-collar version of Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank.
Like I said, at every turn, I see opportunity. It's frustrating because I want to do it all right now.
Oh yeah, I
but
can imagine.
you can't.
Yeah.
You just got to take it a little bit at a time. And it's like I tell the staff here, we're turning a cruise ship.
Yeah.
You know, if you see something interesting in the water, we can't just stop and turn and take a look at it. It's, you know, we're going to have to sail past it for a while and then come back. And over here is where we do customer repairs.
Good morning.
Morning. Yeah, I mean, as you can see, this is all the repairs we got. It's like 4.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool. When I bought it, I'm like, all right, there's 600,000 marks.
Wow.
In this country.
Wow.
In someone's garage. I thought this department would be much bigger.
Right.
Then it's a testament to the quality.
Yeah, I guess that's a great sign. Right?
One question I still had in my head was, how is Nick going to get in front of a new audience? The main downfall of Shopsmith in the past has been their reluctance to embrace anything digital or marketing. Now, there is a small Shopsmith community here on YouTube, but let's be honest, it's not exactly front and center on most of the big channels. How does Nick plan to bridge that gap?
People that watch social media influencers do woodworking are living vicariously through them for the most part because they feel like they can't do that themselves.
Right.
It's interesting, it's something that they want to do, and the biggest barrier isn't price, it's space.
Yep.
Here's this cool machine and you can have it in the corner of your garage and you can pull it out, work on it, and then put it away, instead of like having a table saw, lathe, router, and a drill press and all these big standalone machines that take up so much space. You can do woodworking. And the mark is just as precise as a Delta table saw or any of the high-end machines, which if you bought 7 of them, it's going to cost you about $8,000.
Right.
Our mark is 5.
For someone who already has the tools, it'd be tough to sell a Shopsmith, right? Because you have, well, I have a table saw, I have this. Even if you have one,
Sure.
you're going to convince them to say, well, ditch that and buy the Shopsmith.
Yep, totally agree with all that. The most common first tool purchase is the table saw.
Yeah.
To be honest, like that is our weakest area.
Interesting.
Is a table saw.
Okay.
We do that, you know, but we're not leading with that.
Sure.
The mark is built on a lathe platform. I would say that if you've got a table saw, there's still room, you know,
I hadn't
for
thought
a
about
mark.
that. So you can have a table saw and then use this for sort of the
Yeah.
other component.
And the most common component that you use with a table saw is a jointer.
Mm-hmm.
And our jointer that hooks onto our mark works with the table saw. But yeah, if you've got a table saw, you know, we're not trying to compete with Delta or SawStop.
Right.
They make a dope table saw.
Right.
But again, our target market is 25 to 45 who want to get into woodworking. You know, it's really that.
Where space maybe is a limiting factor.
Well, it's going to be a limiting factor in that demographic unless you're in the top 5% of,
Right.
you know, socioeconomically. So, but the same percentage of them want to be woodworkers as the same percentage of our generation.
Right.
So that's where my opportunity is.
And as we were wrapping up, we walked past this very obviously dated Shopsmith poster hanging on the wall.
This is exactly what we're going to represent again to the community of like, you've got all of the attachments up on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
You've got this thing in front of a car,
Yep.
and he'll wheel that up against the wall. So it's like we're recreating that right now in digital form.
And this to me is Nick's biggest challenge. How do you make a modern message to appeal to a younger generation of woodworkers? I heard Nick give a great analogy of what he's up against in an interview. He said it's a bit like what J.J. Abrams faced when he was tasked with making the new Star Wars movies. How do you avoid alienating the original fans and bringing in new ones at the same time?
So it sounds like the goal for you is not just breathe some life into this company that maybe has historically been in a slump just due to the lack of adoption of new age media marketing, that kind of stuff, but also it almost sounds like you want to pass on the torch of woodworking to a younger generation.
Of course.
Would I be accurate in saying that?
My responsibility here is to grow this company. And I think by doing that, I'll accomplish that. Because I think the younger generation, as I said, the reason they're not getting into woodworking is not for a lack of interest. It's ability. And that ability is space. Some of it's price, but space. For, 90% of woodworking, they're all hobbyists, they're all DIYers. They all want to just make cutting boards and turn some bowls and do some pretty simple projects and then see where it goes. We're here to be the partners of woodworkers. We're not a woodworking company. We're here to support woodworkers.
Look, manufacturing in the US is already hard, but resurrecting a nearly dead power tool company is also very hard. Nick has definitely got his work cut out for him. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, but I know I'm going to be rooting for him. What do you think Nick should do? What would your advice be? Leave those down in the comments. I bet Shopsmith is listening, and how often do you get to give direct feedback to a power tool manufacturer?
thanks for coming.
Nick, thanks for having me. I appreciate the tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool to see, and I'm excited that Shopsmith's coming back, and kind of a unique thing that you guys offer that no one else does. And if it can grow the woodworking community, that's a win for everybody. And,
that's the goal.
Excited to see what you guys do.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thanks for coming out. Tell your friends.
Will do.
All right, man. See ya.
See ya.